Okay, so this is basic setup 1, company setup and entering employee profiles. In this class today, it's designed to train administrators on setting up basic system settings, putting in employee information. Some of the topics we're going to go over today is putting in our department information, putting in some general system settings, putting in employee titles or ranks, however you guys define that, creating groups, which in the system is just the way we organize our employees, whether you do it by department or by squad, platoon, troop, however you guys do it now, you're going to replicate that in here. After that, I'm going to show you how to put in employee profiles, which is how we put our employees actually into the system, get them in the system, because everyone needs an employee profile before they can be put on a schedule. And then after that, I'm going to show you how to put in employee pay information if you plan on utilizing the system in conjunction with payroll. If not, and you want to include that pay information just to kind of manage employee salaries, track their salary, increases, anything like that, I'll show you how to do all that too. So to actually get started, excuse me, we're going to open up the application. This is our login screen. We need to put in a username and password. Now, like I said before, everyone for the basic setup classes is given a security admin account, which just gives you access to everything. And the username and password for that account is going to be SECADM. So I'm going to type it in right here, SECADM as my username. And I'm just going to put that in again as the password, SECADM. So that's how everyone's going to get into their own systems during these classes. SecAdmin. I'm going to click Sign In. Now, keep in mind that this is, my own database, so it's already pretty populated with information. When you guys log in for the first time, your screen may look a little different in that pretty much if you haven't used the system before, right now your program's kind of like an empty shell. And with all of these basic setup classes, you're going to learn how to kind of populate this program. That way, by the time you reach the end of the basic setup classes, you will have a fully functioning schedule built into your system. Your employees will be put on schedules. It'll be up and running and fully functional. So don't worry if what you see on my screen is a little different than what you see. Like I said, you're going to start populating throughout each of these classes. So a quick overview of the system. Pretty much this blue ribbon right here is our main menu. When we click on any one of these items, what happens is we get a sidebar. Now within these sidebars, it's kind of organized by types of screen. So when we click on, say, Employee Center, these are all the screens having to do with the Employee Center. Same thing with Company Center. So the nice thing about today is everything we're going to be doing today can be found in the administration menu right here. But pretty much how the overall system works is this is our main menu, and when we click on anything, we get a side menu. So like I said, everything we're going to be doing today can be found in the admin menu, so you don't have to go digging around in the system. You just go to admin, and we're going to be working off of these options to the left right here. So the first thing we are going to do today is put in some general system-wide preferences and settings. Things like putting in default schedule dates. Default schedule dates are used to kind of tell the system what the current year is, for reporting and payroll, things like that. So we're going to click on Administration, and then we're going to click on Company Center. Company Center is where most of our general system settings can be found. The first couple of topics we go over today, they will all deal with the Company Center. So first, we're going to click on Application Control, which should be the first screen when we expand the Company Center submenu. We're going to click on Application Control, and it's going to bring us to this screen right here. So like I was saying, in this screen, we can put in, various system-wide settings. we're going to put in a default current schedule date, date range, I should say, and then some other settings as far as what we want to see in the system. So let's get right into it. So the first thing we need to do is put in current schedule dates. Now these are default reporting dates, and it also defines when time off needs to be scheduled in order to draw correctly from our available bank balances. Now typically you either set this by calendar year or by fiscal year. Another important thing is this needs to be updated once a year. So I'm doing it by calendar year. I set, I click this drop down and I select January 1st, 2016, and an end date is going to be December 31st, 2016. So now come next year, I need to update this to January 1st, 2017, December 31st, 2017. Like I said before, you might be using fiscal year. Either way, you are just going to put the current start date and end date of your fiscal year right now. Once we do that, we're going to skip past overtime control. As far as basic setup goes, we're not concerned with this. This is a little more advanced. We don't really need to worry about this right now. We're going to go down to the other controls section. Now we do have some check boxes these are kind of the VCS recommended settings. Obviously, as you get more familiar with the system, you might want to revisit these, but as far as getting your system up and running for the first time, I would recommend that you just kind of mirror what I currently have in my system, and I'm just going to go through what I have checked and what they mean. So the first box, allow changes to future approved days off. Turning this checkbox on, all that does is it allows supervisors the ability to edit or modify approved time off entries for your employees, meaning someone puts in for time off, it gets approved. This will allow them to make changes, once, even after it's approved. The next checkbox, hide pay rate on the employee statistical report. All this is doing is just hiding pay-related information from all non-administrative employees. That's pretty cut and dry. That's all it's doing. Show jobs on daily schedule. This is just going to allow us to show job assignments on our daily schedule view. And you'll learn more about job assignments in the next class, but it's a good idea to just turn that box on now. The next checkbox, always email receipt. So our system has an automatic email service that it uses for like notifications. Pretty much this box, always email receipt, it turns that email service on. It allows notifications to go through for time off and overtime requests, switch approvals, schedule reassignments, training assignments, extra duty assignments, and court assignments. So if you want to get automatic notifications via email from the system, turn this box on. The next one, show denied days web. What this is doing is it's going to display denied time off on daily schedules. Why do we need this? Well, maybe if you have employees, that call out sick on days where they put in a request for time off and it got denied, well, you'll be able to kind of report on that. So this is just going to show denied days off on a schedule. The last box that we have here, hide social security number. This just removes the social security field from our employee profile, meaning we just can't put in that information. Turn this on if you don't want to put people's social security numbers in the system. That just kind of hides that field from having anything entered in it. Once we put in these check boxes, there are a few other options we can fill out. So reciprocation restriction, this is used for schedule switches. This determines the window in which we can put switches in. So if we put in, it goes by days. So if I were to put in the letters PP, all caps, that stands for pay period. So if your department allows people to kind of swap schedules, but they have to be made up to each other within the current pay period, you would put in PP. If you allow up to 30 days to make up a schedule swap, you could put in 30. If it's a week, you put in 7. So whatever you have there, if you leave it set to 0, that just, it's unlimited pretty much. And obviously time zone, we select, you just put in your time zone, that way the timestamps are correct. Don't worry about the standard hour to use for daily rate calculation. We're not concerned with that at this point in time. You can select your time format. You could set it to either a 24-hour, meaning military, or the standard AM/PM format. So it's up to you. A lot of people just stick with military. You put in the first day of your work week, whether you start on a Sunday or a Monday. And then the last thing we're going to put in on this screen is the URL for your web portal. Now, you should have been given this web portal address in the email that you received with the download instructions for this system. So you're just going to copy that link into this field right here. When we're all done, we click Save. And then the screen will close. So those are some of the system-wide settings we want to fill out. So the microphones right now are unmuted. So if does anyone have any questions regarding filling out the application control screen?
Close it and then good. Close this down. All right, sweet. So,
and like I said, you might not know what a lot of this stuff means, and that's okay. That's why we're showing you what we recommend for now, just to get you up and running. Like I said, obviously, the more familiar you get with the system, you might revisit the screen and put in some different settings, whatever works best for your department. But as far as getting the system up and running, I would just try and mirror what we currently have right here. So before we move on, I'll just ask again, does anyone have any questions or need me to go over anything that we just kind of went through again for better clarification? Or is everyone okay? All right, well, if no one has any other questions, we'll move on to the next topic. So let me close out of this screen. The mics are muted now. All right, so the next topic we're going to go over is general setup. This is where we're just going to put in our department information. Now, what we put in here could show up on some reports. It's pretty simple. We're going to go to the admin menu yet again. Like I said, we're not going to leave this menu. And we're going to stay in the company center for now, and we're going to click on general setup. As far as filling out this screen, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. We're going to put in our department name. We could put in our address. We're going to put in, city, state, zip code, phone number, and now site code. This was also provided for you in that email with the download instructions and the URL. Everyone's site code, if you have it, put it in here. What this does is it links this system to our mobile applications, meaning our app for Android and iOS. So when if your users down the line start using the app, they're using the correct database because this site code is linking whatever we put in here to that app. So if you don't know what your site code is, just refer back to that email that you received from VCS with the download instructions. The site code was included in that. Once we're done, we click Save, and that screen will close. So that screen's pretty easy as far as setup goes. The mics are open again, so that was topic number 2, pretty quick and easy. Does anyone have any questions regarding general setup?
Muted myself anyway.
No, so they can hear it. Oh, good. You see you're muted?
No.
No, everyone's unmuted right now. All right, well, if everyone's good, like I said, that was pretty self-explanatory. We're going to move on now to setting up groups. So, like I said, if you have any questions while I'm talking, you can just write me a message via the chat feature, and obviously I'll see that and we can get that addressed, or you can just click to raise your hand. I'll see that. I'll open up the mic so we can get any issues resolved. But here we'll keep going. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is put in groups into the system. Now, this is just mirroring how you guys, currently do it for your agency. It's just how we organize our employees, whether it's by department, by division, squad, platoon, however you refer to it as, we want to replicate that here. So once again, in the admin menu, we can collapse Company Center now. We're going to be moving to another group. We're going to go to List Center now. We're going to expand that. And we're going to click on Set Up Groups. So now, what groups are used for in the system, it's used for a couple of things. One, it's used to define email defaults for time off and overtime requests. So what I mean by that is we can set it up. So like here I have Squad A already built. Our email defaults mean, whenever someone who belongs to Squad A puts in a request for time off, it's going to go to a default Squad A supervisor. Anyone from Squad C, when they put in for time off, we can tell the system always notify this particular employee or employees, right? Anyone from finance, who needs to be notified, we can set that up via group. So it's group specific as far as those email destinations go. Also, reports in the system can be filtered by group. So if I want to pull a time off activity report for my records division, I can do that. Also, monthly and weekly schedules are organized via group. So it's going to show, when I pull up my weekly schedule, it's going to show all my admin people together, all my detective people together, my finance, traffic, all that stuff. It's going to be organized by group. And as far as putting in our groups, like I said, when you go to this screen for the first time, it's going to look a little different. This will be blank. This is just a list of all the groups I currently have created. So, you shouldn't have anything in there. As far as putting in a new group, what we're going to do is we're going to click New, and all that does is it wipes out all these fields right here. We have two tabs, General and Email Destination. As far as today's class goes, we only care about the General tab. Email Destination, that's kind of further down the line. We just want to create the groups right now. So under General, we want to make sure that this active checkbox is checked. That just means that the group is going to be active and used in the system. We need to put in a group code and a description. Now a code, it's just an abbreviation of the group, right? It's a 5-character max, and it's just a way for the system to identify what that group is. So for like my administration group, the code's just admin, right? Finance, it's FIN. Squad A, it's SQ space A. It's just an abbreviation of the group. So what I'm going to do here, maybe I'll put in a, let me think. I'll just put in a Division 2, right? So I'll just kind of mirroring what I have over here for Division 1. I'll just put in DIV space 2. That's 5 characters. And then we need to put in a description, which is just a description of the code. It's the name of the group kind of just spelt out. And this is what appears on schedule views. Now we can put in up to 25 characters in this field. So I'm just literally going to spell out Division 2. So here, if you have, an Alpha squad, Bravo squad, you can make that code, Alpha. If you have Squad A, B, C, or if you do it by departments, you can do it that way. Don't worry about security sections. You just literally put in a code and a description, and you click Save. Make sure you save after each one, and you'll notice it should show up on that list right then and there. So let me open up the microphones and unmute everyone. Does anyone have any questions as far as, what groups are or how to put them into the system? Nope, everyone's good? All right. So we'll keep moving right along. I'm going to mute the microphones again. All right. So once you're done, you're just going to, put in all the groups your agency currently has, save after each one. When you're done, close out. Now, the next thing we're going to do is put in our titles. Now, titles are it's a rank used to identify the employee. Now, titles are only used for scheduling purposes. It has no effect on pay whatsoever. It's used to just identify the type of people we have working a particular shift. So, once again, in the List Center under the Admin menu, we're going to go to Set Up Titles next. Now, let me make this a little bit bigger so you guys can see. So in this window here, once again, it might be blank for you guys if it's the first time you're using this. To our left is just a list of all the titles I currently have in my system. It's pretty self-explanatory. We're just putting in our ranks here. We're going to put in a code, which, once again, up to 5 characters. And the code is what actually appears on the daily schedule. So as you can see, like my officer title, the code is OFC period. On my daily schedule, let me minimize this. Behind me is my daily schedule. We could see these are my officers. There's my sergeant, chief, deputy chief, lieutenant, clerk, detective. So that's how the code is what shows up next to everyone's name on a daily schedule. So let's go ahead and put one in. Let me see. I'll put in a secretary title. So I'm going to click New. Now code, once again, up to 5 characters, and this is what shows up on a daily schedule. So we want to make sure that whatever we put in here, when people see it, they know what it's referring to. So for secretary, I can just do something like SEC. And then once I'm done with that, I need to put in a description. Now, once again, it's just a description of the code. This is what appears in a lot of our drop-down menus. It's just going to be the name of the title kind of spelt out. So I can type secretary. And now the last thing we need to do is put in a sort order. Now this number, it's a number that we put in here. This is, it kind of defines like your hierarchy of titles. So for example, chief would be number 1, deputy chief number 2, captain 3, lieutenant 4, sergeant 5, and it's okay. These characters don't have to be unique. And what I mean when I say that is maybe your officers and detectives are technically of the same rank, just a different title. Well, if my officer has a number 6 as the sort number, well, guess what? My detective can also have a number 6. What this is used for is it's on my daily schedule right here. Obviously, my sergeant is a higher rank than an officer, so sergeant shows up above officers. Down here, we see it a little bit better. My chief is number 1, deputy chief number 2, lieutenant number 3. So it's just defining the hierarchy of your titles. So for my secretary, I'm going to make it a number 7, the same as my clerks. And when I'm done, I just click Save, and boom, they get added to the list. So you're going to want to do this for all the ranks in your agency. You're just filling out a code, description, sort order. Make sure you save after each one, and you should see your list slowly start to kind of populate with that information. So the mics are unmuted. Does anyone have any questions regarding what a title is or how it's used? Oh, we're good. Okay. If no one has any questions, we'll just keep moving right along. We only have 2 more topics left. So let me mute microphones. All right, so the next thing we're going to do, we're going to start putting employees into the system. Now, the screen we're about to visit It can be a little busy. However, we pretty much put in the bare minimum of what we need. You'll see that in a little bit. As far as the employee profile, which is how we get our people into the system, it's here where we create individual profiles that contain information specific to that employee. The information that's put into an employee profile links to various operations in the system, such as payroll, scheduling, other things like that. Now, if you don't have an employee profile, you can't access the system. So everyone that's going to be using the system needs an employee profile to actually get access into using the system. So we are going to go to the Employee Center now under Administration, and we are going to click Employee Profile, and it brings us to this screen. I'm going to maximize this so we can see all the information a little bit better. So once again, on the left, it will be blank for you guys if you currently don't have anyone in the system. Once you start putting people in, you're just going to get a list of everyone that you put in. So these are all the people that I currently have in my system. To the right, we have a couple of tabs that that just contain fields of information we may or may not put in for each employee. The nice thing is, as far as today's class goes, we're only using the first two tabs, general and contact information. Don't worry about any of these other tabs. Just focus on the first two. And the nice thing about employee profiles is, obviously the things in red are mandatory. Everything else is kind of optional, right? There are some recommended fields that we strongly suggest you fill out, just to kind of make your lives easier down the road, and we'll get into that next. So as far as putting in, and we'll go ahead and just put in a brand new employee. I'm going to click New, and that's going to clear anything out from these fields here. So I click New. I'm under the General tab. And like I said before, everything in red is the mandatory in order to save this person. So let's just go through those fields first. We need to put in a first and last name. So, oops. Put in a first and last name, date of birth, sex, driver's license number, race, middle initial. That's all optional. If you want to put that information in there, you can. If you don't, you need at least a first and last name under personal details. Now we're going to move to record details. We need to put in a code. This is just the employee ID, right? Typically, it might be badge number, it might be first initial, last name. It could be a payroll ID if you would like, or if everyone has an employee ID in there. If everyone currently has an employee ID, you can just put that in this field. But for my own department's purposes, I'm going to just do first initial, last name to kind of keep everything consistent. So that's the employee code, and this is just what the system uses to identify an employee. It looks at their code. After that, we need to tell the system what group they belong to. So once you put in the groups, this drop-down menu is going to contain all the groups that we created. So I'm just going to say finance. Okay. And then under that title, this is once again pulling the titles that we have previously created in the system. So out of everything you created, you're going to select what they are. So I'm just going to say secretary. That's the title that we put in together. And then we need to put in their seniority number. Now, there's a couple of ways to do it. What VCS recommends is you put in seniority based on title, meaning, maybe your admin group will have the seniority, 1 to 99, right? Lieutenants will be, 100 through 199, sergeants 200 through 299, and so on. That way, when someone gets promoted, you don't need to change everyone's seniority number. You just change the first prefix number. Now, this is used, in some overtime screens. Obviously, 1 is the highest seniority number, and it just kind of, the bigger the number, the lower the seniority. So we do have a little bit more about that in the guide if you're confused when I say seniority by title. I think it makes life a little bit easier for everyone as far as like promotions and stuff like that. You only have to change one number as opposed to everyone in the department. So I'm just going to say 799 for now. So as far as required fields go, that is it. But now we're going to get into some of the VCS recommended fields. We strongly suggest that for hire date and accrual date, those get filled out. This is used if you plan on using our automated time allotment setup, meaning if everyone gets time based on years of seniority, or I'm sorry, years of service, each year, the system uses these dates to determine what your years of service are. So to put that in, we just check the box in the hire date field, and you can just type right over this. So I'm going to say, 9/20, maybe 2014. Typically, your accrual date is going to be the same as the hire date, unless you have someone, if they're just, maybe if they work in the same town, but they're just transferring agencies, and their accrual rules kind of carry over. But 9 times out of 10, your accrual date is going to be the same as your hire date. And then some other things, pretty much we have these check boxes up here. If this applies to anyone in your department, if any of these check boxes apply to this employee, you just check the box on. So if they're part-time, you check that box. If they're on probation, if they're an exempt employee, if they're a civilian, crossing guard, if they get shift differential, what have you, you just check those boxes. Once you do that, so all we did was, all the required fields, we put in a hire date and accrual date, and then we put in our settings for, if any of these checkboxes apply to this employee. And then that's it for the General tab. Next, we're going to click on Contact Information. Now, as you can see, there's nothing red in here, so nothing's required. However, definitely put in at least an email address, because like I said, our system uses emails as the notification service, right? So if there's no email in there, no one's going to get notified if their vacation day got approved, or if their overtime got denied, or anything like that. So at least an email address and a text message address. This is used for a lot of our overtime services. If we post a job, we can send notifications via text that there's work available for overtime. Now this field, the best address to put in is the MMS address. So what a lot of people do is they just kind of get the addresses from their service provider. Like Verizon, it's the 10-digit phone number at vtext.com. I only know that because I personally use Verizon, but it's service carrier specific. But if you don't want to put that in there, if no one wants to give their personal cell phone number for work-related purposes, you can just kind of put in the email address in there again. So you're going to have these two fields filled out at the very minimum. Now, if you want to put in employee address and employee emergency contact information, you could do that as well. It's not required, but definitely at least an email address and a text message address at the bare minimum. All right. Once you're done with that, you're going to save, and then once you press save, you're going to click new and put in the next employee, and you're just going to do this for everyone in your department, your agency. Whatever you want to call it, you're just going to put in everyone in here to get them into the system. So now, the mics are open. I can, if you have a question, I can hear you. Does anyone need me to go over, filling out an employee profile again? or does anyone have any questions, I guess, regarding the employee profile, what it means, how it's used?
Just one quick question. Can you hear me?
Everyone's good? All right, well, if everyone's good, we'll move on to our last topic. And like I said, the guide that's included in the go-to training under the material section, this reiterates everything that I just showed you, so you'll have that to refer back to as well. The last thing we're going to do, we're going to stay in Employee Center, and we're going to click on Pay Info. Now, in this screen, this is where we're going to add employee salary information to the system. If we plan on utilizing payroll, we can put in some information in there that maybe needs to get carried over into payroll. There's not much to fill out, which is nice. I'm just going to show you what we recommend for now. So pretty much once everyone has an employee profile, they're going to show up in this list on the left. It's just going to show the employee code and the employee name. We have 3 tabs on the right. We'll get into those in a second. First, let's focus on payroll. So let's find that employee I just put in. There she is. So under payroll, I'm going to click on her name. I'm going to fill out just 3 things on this screen, which is nice. A payroll ID. So this is, whatever the payroll company code is, however they identify an employee, you can put that in here. So I'm just going to put in some random number, at least for these purposes. Once we put in a payroll ID, we can fill out whatever their standard hours scheduled per pay period are. So if your employees are salary, no matter what, they're going to get paid for 80 hours each pay period. If it's 75 hours or something like that, you can put that in here. But that's all you got to put in, whatever they're salaried for each pay period. And then the last thing on this screen, we can put in minutes of unpaid or paid lunch. Now, if you're getting paid for lunch, you don't really have to put in anything in this field down here, minutes of paid lunch. However, if you get maybe an hour of unpaid lunch, you need to put in 60 minutes of unpaid lunch in here, because what happens is when we build our shifts, which you won't do till a later class, that shift includes the lunch times. So I might be on the schedule for 9 hours, but as long as I have minutes of unpaid lunch put into my pay info screen, what that's telling the system is, yeah, I'm scheduled for 9 hours, but I'm only getting paid for 8, because one of those hours is an unpaid hour of lunch. So now once we put that in, it's also used for time off calculations, meaning if I want to take a day off of work and I'm scheduled for 9 hours, but like I said, I'm only getting paid for 8, what the system will do is deduct this from my total time off. So I'll be off the schedule for 9 hours, but let's say I use vacation time. I'm only going to lose 8 hours of vacation time because it knows that I have an hour of unpaid lunch. So even though I'm technically off the schedule for 9 hours, I'm only getting deducted 8. Once you put in, those 3 fields, we can move to the Pay Rates tab. And here is where we can put in, everyone's, pay rate, whether it's, hourly or annual. The nice thing about this screen is if someone has an annual salary, it will automatically calculate the rest of these fields. So if I put in, $37,000, it will automatically calculate the monthly rate, the biweekly rate, weekly rate, hourly rate. It'll calculate their overtime rate, straight time, time and a half, double time. But now if say you have a part-time person who just gets paid by the hour, we can put in their hourly rate right here, but you'll notice nothing else gets populated. So at least for overtime rates, we need to put that in manually. So if I put in 15 here, time and a half, that is, what is that? That's 22.5. Double time, I have to manually put in 30. And now, if I want to kind of track my salary history, what I do is I tell the system what the effective date is. So, as of, her hire date, right, which was, I can't even remember, 2014. So as of this date, she was making this amount, per hour. And under comments, I could just put, starting salary. Now to save this to my salary history, I want to click the button, add to salary history. And now when I do that, what happens is if I go to the salary history tab, that entry gets saved right here. So as people, they get an increase in pay, all that stuff, you'll be able to keep track of that, when it happened, who did it, any comments, everything's timestamped. So if you want to track salary history through here, you can do that. You don't have to fill out the pay rate information. Some departments do, some departments don't. It's totally a personal choice. But this is good, for reports. If your department's interested in how much money I paid out for every particular type of overtime, it uses these rates right here to come up with a dollar amount. So okay, last week I spent $2,700 on staffing shortage overtime based on who worked it. You know what I mean? So like I said, you don't have to put anything in here, but if you want to keep track of all that, that's how you do it. And by the way, you have to save after each employee. When you're done, make sure you click save and then go to your next employee. If you go through all your employees and then save, well, you're gonna erase all that information you put in. So that's important. Make sure you save after each employee. The microphones are open. Does anyone have any questions about pay information? Like I said, that's not required. Like if you're not using payroll through the system, well then don't worry about it. If you are either definitely going to utilize the system with payroll, or if you are thinking about utilizing the system with payroll, definitely at least fill out the payroll tab portion of the pay info screen, meaning the payroll ID, standard hours per pay period, and any minutes of unpaid lunch if applicable.
Hold on, I'm good. I'm almost done with this.
So if no one has any questions about that, does anyone have any questions about anything we went over in today's basic setup class? Anything at all?
Oh, we're good.
So like I said, it's okay if you don't necessarily get all of this stuff done before basic setup 2, but the further you go into the basic setup classes, everything starts to build on what you did last, right? So if you don't have your employees in the system, obviously you can't send them to a schedule, so make sure, try and get everything that we went over today done before basic setup 2. If not, it's not the end of the world, but you definitely don't want to fall, very far behind and play catch up. Try and stay current with what you're being taught. But that's all I have for you for today's class. So if no one has any other questions, we can just go ahead and end the meeting, and you guys can get into putting in this information. When you have time available. Yeah, so that's all. Questions? We'll go ahead and end the meeting. All right.
Okay.
All right. Well, everyone have a very good day.